Therwan Saranai. Blessings to all of you. Welcome to another wonderful session of Aloka Dhamma discussion. As always, today also I, with a great gratitude, welcome Venerable Sandalanka Kalyanadasana Thero and Venerable Gampa Sumanasu Thero to the studio for our discussion. So I thought to start with a totally different, more positive side today. Topic is appreciation. As leaders, one of the biggest blind sides, unfortunately, we have is not knowing how to appreciate us and our team's achievement. Appreciation is the key. How small it is, appreciating what you and your team has and what you receive is very, very important factor if you want to become a successful leader. Venerable Gampa Sumanasu Thero, is Buddhism teaching about this principle, the value and importance of appreciation?
With respect to Venerable Sundalankawe Kalyanadasana Thero, Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, the Lord Buddha is someone who always appreciates others' good qualities. This can be found especially in the Anguttara Nikaya, because there is a whole section named Etadaggapali where the Lord Buddha gave various titles to others who showed good qualities and behavior. Not only were titles given to bhikkhus, but bhikkhunis as well. But the Lord Buddha didn't only appreciate people who went forth. He also gave titles to both male and female lay devotees. The Blessed One appreciated the good qualities of everyone. If I were to give some examples for some bhikkhus who were appreciated by the Lord Buddha, the Blessed One has preached, Etadaggam bhikkave mama savakanam bhikkhunan vivitta katikanam yadidam kumarakasapo. Bhikkhus, in my dispensation, if there is a bhikkhu who can preach the Dhamma most beautifully, then that would be Bhikkhu Kumarakasapa. Etadaggam bhikkave mama savakanam bhikkhunan senasana panyapakanam yadidam dabba mallaputto. Bhikkhus, in my dispensation, if there is a bhikkhu who can assign lodging most skillfully, then that would be Bhikkhu Dabba Mallaputta. Dear devotees, if I were to give examples to the titles bhikkhunis received, the Lord Buddha preached, Etadaggam bhikkave mama savikanam bhikkhuninam aradda viriyanam yadidam sona. Bhikkhus, in my dispensation, if there is a bhikkhuni who has the most effort, then that would be bhikkhuni sona. Etadaggam bhikkave mama savikanam bhikkhuninam loka chivara dharanam yadidam kisagotami. Bhikkhus, in my dispensation, if there is a bhikkhuni who wears the most coarse robes, then that would be bhikkhuni kisagotami. Dear devotees, if I were to give examples on how the Lord Buddha appreciated lay people and gave them titles, in the Etadaggapali, the Lord Buddha has preached, Etadaggam bhikkave mama savakanam upasakanam vissasakanam yadidam nakulapita gahapatiti. Bhikkhus, in my dispensation, if there is a male devotee who is the most trustworthy, then that would be householder Nakulapita. Again the Lord Buddha preached, Etadaggam bhikkave mama savikanam upasikanam gilanu patta keenam yadidam suppya upasika. In my dispensation, if there is a female devotee who attends sick people most faithfully, then that would be the householder Sipya. Mr. Karagala, from this we can understand that the Lord Buddha has showed us by actions that no matter how small it may be, we should appreciate everyone's good qualities. There is something that I would like to highlight, and that is everyone, including those that I mentioned before, has wished to receive those titles in one of their past lives because they saw a Buddha appreciating someone else. So, what I want to say is, appreciating someone else can lead to the success of another person.
So, well, the Venerable Gampa Sumanasa Thero explained the importance of appreciating the good work and the good qualities of others. So, what's the opposite of appreciation? Blaming or humiliation. Sometimes members of your team, or most probably at least 1 or 2 times a day, somebody in your team would make a mistake. As leaders, most of us try to blame and punish when we see a mistake. But if you are a good corporate leader, you should have the skill and patience to listen to your team, to understand why and how they have made their mistake, and you should be able and be in a position to advise your team members to make sure that they would not repeat that mistake. So Venerable Sandalanka Kalanadasana Thero, so what can we learn from Buddhist philosophy about this concept?
With respect to Venerable Gampa Sumanawasa Thero, Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, our Venerable Gampa Sumanawasa Thero mentioned about how the Lord Buddha appreciated talents of others and gave them titles. But that wasn't the only thing the Blessed One appreciated. At that time, there were a lot of monks and people who made mistakes or did wrong things. And Lord Buddha have advised them. Later, after receiving the advices, they corrected themselves. This is one of the special qualities that Lord Buddha had appreciated, which was correcting one's mistakes. In Buddhism, this quality is called Ayati Samvara. A great example for this can be found in the Anguttara Nikaya, Thika Nipata. One day, Lord Buddha visited a village named Pankada, and at this time, a bhikkhu named Kassapa Gotta was also residing nearby. There the Blessed One instructed, encouraged, and inspired the bhikkhus with a Dhamma talk on disciplinary rules, Vinaya. Then, while the Blessed One was preaching the Dhamma, the bhikkhu named Kassapa Gotta became impatient and thought this ascetic is too demanding. Then, having resided at Pankada for a certain amount of time, Blessed One set out towards Rajagaha, the city. Later, not long after the Blessed One had left, the bhikkhu Kassapa Gotta was filled with remorse and regret. He thought, it is my misfortune and loss that when the Blessed One was preaching the Dhamma, I became impatient and bitter. So let me now go to the Blessed One and confess my unwholesome thought to him. Then the bhikkhu Kassapa Gotta set out for Rajagaha and eventually arrived at Rajagaha city, and he approached the Blessed One, paying homage to the Blessed One and said, Lord Buddha, when you Blessed One was preaching the Dhamma, I became impatient and bitter and thought the Lord Buddha is too stringent or demanding. But not long after you, Lord Buddha, left, I was filled with remorse and regret. Bhante, I have committed a mistake. I so foolishly, stupidly, and unskillfully became impatient and bitter. So I plead you may the Blessed One accept my wrongdoing, seen as a wrongdoing for the sake of future restraint. Dear devotees, after Bhikkhu Kassapa pleaded, the Lord Buddha replied, Vuddhi hesa Kassapa ariyassa vinaye yo acchayang acchayato disva yata dhammam patikaroti ayating sangvarang apajjati. The meaning is, surely Kassapa, you have committed a wrongdoing, but since you see your mistake as a mistake and make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, I accept it. For it is very important, according to the Noble One's discipline, that one sees one's mistake as a mistake and makes amends and undertakes future restraint. So, dear devotees, then the Lord Buddha preached, if Kassapa, a bhikkhu, does not desire to train and does not praise the undertaking of training, if he does not encourage other bhikkhus who do not desire to train in training, and if he does not speak genuine, real and timely praise of those bhikkhus who desire to train, I do not speak praise of such a bhikkhu. What is the reason? Because other bhikkhus hearing this will think the teacher speaks praise of him, and those who associate with him might follow his example. If they follow his example, this would lead to their harm and suffering for a long time. Therefore, I do not speak praise of such a bhikkhu. Lord Buddha also said, if Kassapa, a bhikkhu, desired to train and praises the undertaking of training, if he encourages other bhikkhus who do not desire to train in training, and if he speaks genuine praise of those bhikkhus, then I will praise such bhikkhus. Because other bhikkhus hearing this will think the Lord Buddha praises him and associates with him, and those who associate with him might follow his example. If they follow his example, this would lead to their welfare and happiness for a long time. Therefore, I praise such bhikkhus. Mr. Karagala, nowadays what people do is, if someone makes a mistake, we label that person according to his mistake. For example, if someone steals, he becomes a thief. Or if someone lies, he becomes a liar. But even if people make mistakes, sometimes there are people who are willing to correct themselves. So what we need to do is, instead of blaming them, we need to praise their willingness so that they can correct themselves.
So if you don't appreciate what you have achieved and what your team has achieved, you will never be satisfied and will try to do things breaking all the rules and the protocols against your ethics and stretching you and your team towards the limits which nobody can do. So that will disturb and destroy you and your team. So it is very important to appreciate what we have and understand how to manage our lives and the corporate life. So throughout probably last couple of weeks, we discussed about how to become successful, but I'm going to turn into a different angle about success, how to measure the success. Unfortunately for most of us, comparison against somebody of what they have and what we have is a success. If you have done something more than my neighbor, I'm successful. Or my competitor, I'm successful. Or my colleague, I'm successful. So this happens due to our greediness. When you set a target, when you decide what you should achieve, you should only focus on that. And only focus on that target. Measure your success, and you should be happy of what you have achieved against what you have planned and expected to achieve. Not against what others have and what others have achieved. So Venerable Kampa Sumanwasatero, so how can you explain, or is Buddhism rejecting being greedy of the gains of others, or tolerating that?
Mr. Karagala, qualities are specially essential for a bhikkhu, and a person who has gone forth cannot enjoy the pleasures of monkhood without these qualities. A monk who doesn't have these qualities will feel as if he is living in a prison and won't be able to properly establish his ordination. But for a monk who has these two qualities, appiccata and santuttita, the monkhood will bring him great pleasure and will be able to quickly attain fruition. Dear devotees, if I were to explain these two qualities, appiccata is not desiring many things, and santuttita is the quality of being satisfied with whatever you have, whether it is good or bad, a lot or a little. Now an interesting fact is, if there is someone who only has either appiccata or santuttita, that person will have the other quality as well, because these two qualities are interconnected. It is said that someone who develops these two qualities will not generate the opposite bad qualities, atriccata, mahiccata, and papiccata. Now let's look at these three bad qualities individually. First is atriccata. Dear devotees, this is the nature of not being satisfied with what you have and wishing for and seeking better things. This is a very childish greed. If someone has this bad quality, for example, even after receiving the same serving of rice as someone else, he will wish to obtain the other person's serving, thinking that it is better than his, even though both are cooked in the same place, in the same method, and at the same time. If there is someone who has this quality, then that person might even have to repent the loss of both what they had and what the others had. The same thing happened to a king who left his queen and chased after a mermaid. Ultimately, he repented because he lost both his queen and the mermaid. Not only that, but if someone has atriccata, that person will also be disgusted by the people around him. Dear devotees, the next one is mahiccata. What this means is being dissatisfied with whatever one gets and the tendency to expect more or greater things and further things. Showing off one's virtue and not knowing the limits of receiving and consuming are indications of people with mahiccata. If we take a monk for example, just like a trader who shouts saying such and such goods are available, or good things are available and going cheap, in the same manner, a monk with mahiccata will say that I am someone with good moral. I am a pindapatika person, someone who lives by begging. I am someone who lives in the forest and meditates. And after saying this, he will accept all requisites that foolish people offer to him, because they believe these lies or utterances. But dear devotees, no matter how much requisites he receives, he will never be satisfied. Just as a fire will never be satisfied with how much firewood is fed into it, or just as the ocean is not satisfied with whatever quality of water it receives. This is why it is preached, අග්ගික්ඛන්தோ සමුද්දෝව මහිච්ඡෝචාපි පුග්ගලෝ බහුකේ පච්චයේ දෙන්තේ තයෝපේතේන පූරයේ. If someone has mahichata, that person will be unpleasant to the world. He is so unpleasant that even his own mother won't like him.
Excuse me, Bante.
Yes, Venerable sir. Is there something that you would like to add?
Yes. Sorry to interrupt you. Mr. Karagala, when I heard the verse our Venerable Gampaha Sumanawasa Thero mentioned, I remembered a story that perfectly fits this verse or stanza. So, dear devotees, once there was a young monk who was fond of cakes. Once on the first day of the Vasana season, the rainy season, his mother thought, if my son knows the limits of receiving, then I will offer him cakes during the entire 3 months. And with the idea of testing his son, she offered him cakes. At first, she offered him one, and the Thero ate it. Then she offered another one. The young monk ate that as well. Then the mother offered the third cake as well, and the bhikkhu, just as before, ate it. Then the mother realized that her son does not know the limits of receiving and didn't offer even a single cake thereafter. If I give you another example, at the time when King Tissa was ruling Sri Lanka, he offered alms to a certain group of bhikkhus in Sigiriya. One day, the people asked the king, "Your Majesty, why are you giving alms to only one place? Is it not worthy to give other places as well?" After that, the king prepared a big alms giving or offering at Anuradhapura area. That thing happened in the next day for a different group of monks. But of all the bhikkhus who came, not a single one considered their limits of acceptance. Each monk accepted food more than enough for 2 or 3 people. Then on the next day, the king invited the group of bhikkhus who he previously gave offerings to. And when they arrived, the king asked for the alms balls of those bhikkhus. But they did not give it, saying, "Great king, our group of bhikkhus will only accept food sufficient for each other." In this manner, all the monks accepted food enough for one. After this, the king said to the people, "Do you see now the difference? Your monks who came yesterday did not know their limits and nothing was left. But today, only a little was accepted. The rest of the food is in excess." The people praised the second group of monks for knowing their limits and expressed displeasure about the group of monks who came first for not knowing their limits. So, dear devotees, in the same manner, people will be pleased about others who are satisfied with only what they need. If we talk about the dispensation, there will be many benefits for knowing your limits. Like the Lord Buddha's order will shine brightly and last for a long time. There are many stories in the doctrine where people got many benefits because they were satisfied with only what they needed.
Thank you, Venerable Sandalankawe Kalyan Dasana Thero, for giving those examples for what can happen to people with mahichata and people without it. Now, dear devotees, if I were to explain the last bad quality, it is papichata. This is a greed even lower than both atrichata and mahichata. Some characteristics a person with papichata has are: they will express non-existing virtues, and they will also accept things for monks' requisites more than required. A person with papichata will show off his faith even though he doesn't have any faith at all. A person with papichata will wait for the time when people visit the temple and start to do things like sweeping the terrace or washing the stand used to offer flowers. Not only that, but he will talk about morality in the presence of lay people while he himself is immoral. There are some who start to meditate when people are coming because they want others to think well of them. It is the habit or nature of people with papichata to mislead others with lies so that they can receive benefits. But dear devotees, people who have good qualities, apichata and santuttita, can maintain life without engaging in these kinds of low acts. Mr. Karagala, I need to especially say that santuttita is very important of these two qualities, because wishing and seeking many things is due to the absence of santuttita. If someone is satisfied with what he or she has, it is not necessary for him to wish and seek for things that belong to others. The nature of being satisfied is like having everything, and in doing so he can live happily. Dear devotees, that is why the Lord Buddha preached Santutti Paramantana. Having the quality of being satisfied with what you have is one of the most noble and valuable wealths.
So, well, there is no point of looking at what others achieved and gained and then being greedy about what others have and achieved and try to achieve those. That may divert your attention from your course and from your target and distract your focus. And at the end, you will end up not achieving what you have set to achieve. If you do that, you will end up being unsuccessful and unhappy. As Venerable Gampa Sumanawansa Thero concluded, then you will not have that santusti or the happiness. So at the end, for all of us, being happy is the most important thing we should achieve and focus to achieve in our lives. So that will bring to end of another productive and fruitful conversation and a discussion about Buddhism and applicability of Buddhism to our lives. As always, with great gratitude, I thank both Venerable Sandalanka Kalana Dasana Thero and Venerable Gampa Sumanawansa Thero for being here with us and sharing their noble knowledge with all of us and all of viewers around the globe. And to all of you, Theruvan Saranai and blessings.